Hello and welcome. Please don't forget to subscribe to this channel, check out these courses, and enjoy this clown-versation.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to this week's Clown-versation on the 13th of January. This was my birthday week, so I'm feeling very old today. 47. I can't believe it. Anyway, life goes on, and here we are with another amazing Clown-versation guest, JOE Diefferenbacher, who I'll be introducing in just a second. I'm super excited to talk to him. We have never met before, so there's a lot to talk about in 1 hour, but we're going to do our best. Let me know where you are, you guys tuning in today. It would be wonderful to get a sense of where you are in the world, how you're doing today. And as Chad has already started to do, I would love you to type your questions into the chat. Chad from the Red Nose Factory has already written a few questions in there, so we'll be addressing those. And so just throw your questions and your comments into the chat, and we'll engage with those as we go along. And please do subscribe to the YouTube channel. That would be really wonderful and kind of you. And, you know, I'm very excited to say that I have booked a couple of incredible people for these Clown-versations in February. And I just can't keep this news in any longer because I'm so excited. One of them is kind of a lifetime hero of mine in the clown world, Tweedy the Clown. I don't know if you all know Tweedy, but if you're in the UK, you definitely do. He toured with Ringling for a while. He's part of the Gifford Circus outfit. He's an incredible clown, wonderful person, and I'll be talking to him in February. So the amazing people just keep coming every week. And so before I introduce Joe, who is another one of those wonderful people, I want to let you know very quickly about another program that I'm doing, which is relatively new, and you may not have heard about it. And it is called the Clown Creation Studio. And this is the beautiful graphic. Basically, the Clown Creation Studio is something that I created for people who want to create a show. If you want to create a show, a full-length show, or just a short clown piece, and you're kind of stuck, you know, you're maybe not sure what ideas to pursue, or you feel like you need somebody to direct you, but you don't have a director, or you can't afford a director. Maybe you're in a position where you just don't have a live audience to kind of bounce ideas off. Or it's difficult for you to find the discipline and the time and the structure to actually create work, because creating work is difficult. You have to be at it regularly every day. You need a practice. You need people to bounce ideas off. When you're creating theatre, you very often need that objectivity, that outside eye, somebody to tell you, really honestly, what's good and what's not good, and what's working and what's not working, to help you create structure and so on. So I created this online program to help people out there who want to create clown work, who want to create their clown masterpiece. And so it's basically what I call a foolproof, comprehensive, process and results-oriented incubator that gets you from wherever you are right now to having a ready-to-perform piece of clowning at a cost that is affordable for most artists. So I'm not going to go into details now. I just wanted to give it a quick plug just so that you are aware that it's there, that it's a service that you might be interested in. And if you want to talk more about it, I'm happy to have a free kind of initial call with you just to chat about your ideas and see if it'd be something that's appropriate for you. So if you're interested, shoot me an email, barnabyking@gmail.com, or you can, just message me on Facebook or whatever, all those different, channels we have to talk to each other. So get in touch, and it'd be lovely to talk to you. So now I'm very excited because I have in the studio, very soon to be revealed, JOE Diefferenbacher. And Joe is really somebody who has done, it seems to me, done pretty much everything and been everywhere in the clown world. He was the director of the Clown Conservatory in San Francisco for about 6 years. He has made a whole bunch of incredible clown work. He does magic, he does puppetry, he does circus, acro, and lots more things. You know, he's pretty much got all the tools, all the skills. He's even worked in big stadiums with Take That. He's created work for the London Olympics opening ceremony. And, you know, he's just made a big success of himself in his career. He's even got an amazing book, which I'm hoping to talk about very soon. So here he is, Mr. JOE Diefffenbacher. Welcome.
Hello. Good to be here.
I wish I had some kind of sound effect of applause and cheers. It's just
I forgot. Oh, I didn't have like some cymbals or something. Whoa! I've got a monkey. I've got a monkey. Where's my monkey? There he is.
Oh, there, the monkey.
That's not really a sound effect.
No, but it's a visual equivalent. The visual equivalent of a sound effect.
You can squeeze it, but it doesn't make any sound. I'm trying to, but where's the camera? I can't figure out the camera.
That's right there. You've got it.
Okay.
It's a terrible. It's terrible. It doesn't even make a sound when you squeeze it.
I know.
What's the point of that?
I'm squeezing the head. Forget it. Okay. All right. He's still alive. Don't worry.
No animals were hurt.
You know, no animals were injured during the making of this video.
But it is a very natural episode because we have the plant behind you as well. Sort of, we're in the jungle. I feel like
we're in the jungle.
We've got monkeys. We've got greenery.
Wherever the monkey went, we've got greenery. We're all set. Welcome to the jungle. Welcome to my jungle.
Exactly. I'm a little afraid, but very excited to have you on here, Joe. So we've got a whole ton of questions here already lined up. I'm wondering whether to dive in with those or to ask you a question. I think it would be great to hear. I always ask my guests this question, and it's the most obvious question you've been asked a million times before, but it's always interesting. So I'm going to kick off with that, which is, how did you get into this shtick in the first place? How did you get into clowning? What was your route? What was your journey?
I was going to university for art, for painting and sculpture. And just to break up my day, I took a mime class. And in the art classes, everyone's sitting in front of their clay or their canvas. They're all very introverted and, you know, not talking with anyone. And then I go to the mime class and everybody's like, "Hey, Joe, come here, hey," hugging me, inviting me to parties. So it's like this totally opposite energy. And I found out in that class that I had a knack for performing and for comedy. And I started doing some improv with a local company. And then I was working at a costume rental shop that sold magic tricks and juggling equipment. And some guy walks in one day and he says, "I'm going to the Ringling Brothers Barnum Bailey Clown College." And I'd never heard of such a place, never know you could train to be a clown. So I sent in the application, auditioned for them, and then found myself in Florida, you know, learning slapstick and putting pies in people's faces. I mean, that whole sort of broad circus clown style. And that's kind of how it all started.
Interesting. And then you were there at the college for a little while?
It was a 10-week course, and then I got hired to be on the show for a year. And that was, you know, I was like 21 years old, never had any experience like that before. And suddenly I'm surrounded by Eastern European teeterboard artists and elephants and chimpanzees and baboons and horses. I mean, it was just, it was very exciting, but it was also quite overwhelming, you know, because like I said, I'd never done anything like that before. I was only 21 years old. I'm traveling around the country on a train. I'm in front of thousands of people, you know, all over the US performing and just trying to keep up. So it was overwhelming. And at the end of it, I said, okay, I love this. It's great, but I want to be in a more intimate space than a three-ring circus. So
what do you feel like you learned from your clowning during that year that you've sort of taken with you?
The funny thing about the circus, the three-ring circus, is there was a lot of very funny clowns on the show and some very funny gags, they called them. But because of the setup, you couldn't really see that because there's just so much going on in the three-ring circus that you can't really focus on any one thing. And that was a shame because when we were at clown college, some of the clowns from the road came and did some gags for us. So it was just them doing the routine, and they were very funny. But you see the same routine in a three-ring circus, and you're just too distracted by it, you know. So
because there's so much going on at the same time.
yeah, I mean, I loved that broad knockabout style. I took a lot. That's one of the main things I took away from it was the slapstick, which I really loved, and the wisdom of a lot of those old timers, because you know they'd just been doing it for so long. They had a lot of tricks
Yeah.
up their sleeve. So I mean, when I was there, I was just sucking up as much information as I could. So I that's very dear to my heart, that whole experience and the Ringling Circus and all. And I think that the slapstick, the physical comedy is what I took away from that.
I'm just noticing that John says there's no audio. Is anyone else having this problem? I think it's maybe just a problem with John's audio. I don't think it's a problem with the rest of us. But if anybody is watching this spellbound and can't hear a thing, then we'll just keep,
a mime.
then that's probably a good thing. So we should just keep it that way.
Okay.
Because you know, our faces are maybe more interesting than what we have to say. Joe, that's super interesting. But then when you came to the end of that year, you decided you wanted something more intimate. So what?
Yeah.
How did you move into that?
I hooked up with two of my former clown college classmates, and we started a three-man sort of acrobatic slapstick troupe, kind of drawing from that work, but trying to make it more in theatrical, more cabaret. And we called ourselves the Abbots of Unreason, and we toured the U.S. for about 5 years together.
The Abbots of Unreason.
There was an actual group back in the medieval times called the Abbots of Unreason.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
I love that.
And I saw that in some book on clowning and the medieval clowning, and I just thought, that's what we want to call ourselves. I thought it was such a great name, the Abbots of Unreason.
Yeah. And this kind of religious connotation.
Yeah, but who were like during those the fools plays and the carnival times, they were I think they were actually abbots who would then just kind of take the piss out of the church and have fun with it.
The Feast of Fools.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, very cool. So you were doing sort of acrobatic clowning in a group of three.
Yeah, we did a lot of trampoline stuff, mini trampoline, a lot of this, you know, the sort of slapstick we learned at Ringling, and just kind of bringing that into another realm for us, you know, because we weren't in that three-ring circus environment. We did a lot of theaters, we did nightclubs, we did some Renaissance festivals, and just for us, it was just to explore that style, but take it in another direction.
So you got the intimacy with that. You were a bit closer to your audience. And was there anything though, sort of, how to put this? Did you find that was satisfying for you, that kind of work? Was there anything missing at that point that you then felt like you needed to develop further beyond that, after that?
Yeah, after about 4 years of it, I thought I only had that 10 weeks of training at Ringling, and I thought I just need to know more. And I found this, the Del Arte School in California, and went there for a year. And again, my mind was blown open because it was like a different kind of clowning based on the Gaulier-Lecoq style. It was melodrama, commedia dell'arte, the mask performance. And for me, the mask performance was probably the most profound training because it felt like I was combining that early work with painting and sculpture with theater. Because for me, you know, you put on a mask and you use your body, it's kind of like bringing sculpture to life. And I just became fascinated with that part of the training and found that the mask work actually helped the clown work because I had to become more physical to support the mask, but then I became more physical in my clown work, just more aware of how to use my body. So I did that for a year, and then they didn't have a graduate program at the time, so I just kind of hung around the school and made a bit of a nuisance of myself, you know, just keep asking my instructors for information, making masks, touring with the company at Del Arte, making solo shows. I formed another troupe called the Los Payasos Mendigos, and we traveled. It was four of us. Similar style, but taking it to, again, another level based on that Del Arte training.
Yeah.
And we traveled all over the world, actually, and ended up in Europe at one point, and that's kind of how I discovered the European festival scene and ended up first in the Netherlands, and now where I am now in the UK.
Right, because I was going to ask you how you ended up in the UK, because it's sort of you're a long way from home, really.
Yeah, well, I mean, when we came to Europe and we saw those theater festivals, the street theater festivals, it was like, if you've never been to one, a street theater festival in Europe, it's probably the most democratic form of theater I've ever experienced. Because you can make anything you want, as long as you can hold a crowd and you're not too obscene or offensive, and anybody can walk up and watch the show. So I'd have, like, guys who looked like they just came from a construction site next to a woman in a burqa, laughing and enjoying the show. A guy looks like he just came from, a meeting of hedge fund managers next to a family with all their kids. And they're all watching and just having a good time. And it's free for them. I got paid. I made a decent living doing it. But it was just such a wonderful experience to be able to play that way. And there's no barriers.
Yeah.
There's no, except for maybe a chalk line and a piece of rope. The audience is right there, and you've got to contend with everything. Dogs, drunks, families, kids screaming, everything. And it just really, I mean, my level of understanding performance and clowning just went up so much from working those festivals and that kind of an audience.
Yeah. What were the best ones that you went to, the memorable ones, the actual festivals?
I think as far as audiences, the Spanish are some of my favorite crowds, because everybody comes, the family, the grandma and the grandkids, everybody comes to see the show. And the Germans are really good, the German festivals, because the Germans, they're known for being very, organized and very serious. When they're working, that's how they are. But when they come to the festival to have fun, they're like, I'm here to have fun, and they just go crazy. And we did, I did it for about, I'm still doing it. I did it for about 10 years, and there's so many events there. Just every country has these town festivals, and they just close down the whole town, the downtown. And suddenly the place where you normally would go shopping or go to work becomes a theater. And it's just beautiful. I did the Stockton-on-Tees. I don't know if you know that festival up in the north in England. Aurillac, Chalon in France, Térrega in Spain. You had just shows that felt more like a celebration than a performance. Because the whole crowd is playing with you. And like I said, if I've had little kids just walk into the show in the middle of me doing all these acrobatics and just steal the show. but as a clown, I'm like, okay, you can have my show for 10 minutes, 15 minutes. Let's play together. And there's no barrier between that. Like, I welcome that, and we can play. So every time it's the same show, but it always was different.
So there's a structure to it, but it can go kind of really on different journeys through it.
Yeah, and once you accept that, it's actually quite exciting. I use a lot of volunteers in the show, and they can make or break the show. And you learn how to negotiate with whoever steps up there. And I had this bit in one of my shows where, to test to see how strong the guy is, I punch him in the shoulder. And I give him a good rap. And I would normally pick like the biggest guy, like, with these muscles, and just see what would happen if I punched him. What would he do? And sometimes I hit him, and the audience would just be like, "Oh, he's a dead clown. He's not going to survive this." And they would almost all, I never got so badly hurt. I did get whacked a few times, but they would just, but I just want to see what's possible with the audience. Because when they step up there, they are now my clown partner.
Yeah.
We are a duo, and they are equal to me. And I will play the fool to them, or I will play their straight man, whatever happens. And it's just glorious, to be in that situation where you can kind of, test the limits of what's possible and not get hurt.
It's really interesting to me that I feel like it's very, very common in circus clowning now as well to bring audience members up. And there's a lot, you almost can't see a circus clown now who doesn't do this, doesn't bring audience members up. And I wondered at some point whether it was what the history of that is, and whether it's a relatively modern thing because of budgets and the fact that more clowns are on their own and they don't have troops to be able to do multiple clown stuff. So, the cheaper way to do it is to bring somebody up from the audience and to kind of make them your partner if you're skilled enough to do that. It's just a theory. I don't know if it's really
Yeah, it's a good question. I
Okay.
know that for me and for other performers I've talked to, it's probably one of the best ways to break the ice with the audience.
Mm,
Because if you know, like I do this right at the start of the show, I'll bring like maybe a kid up, and I'll just ask him to help me pick up something. There's no attempt to make it funny or anything. I just say, "Can you hand me this thing?" And maybe something comes of it, maybe something doesn't. He just gives me the thing and leaves. But I found it's just a way of saying there's no barrier between myself, the performer, and you. So in a way,
yeah.
it's the
Yeah.
easiest way to kind of break the fourth wall, so to speak, and invite the audience to join in throughout the show, even if they're just sitting and watching.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. Um, okay, I'm going to go to a couple of questions. Chad, do you know Chad from the Red Nose Factory?
Yeah, yeah. Well, I know him through online and the Red Noses, and also I don't know if we met in San Francisco once.
Right.
Yeah, it was a while back. I think we
I,
did.
I think he went to Delarte as well, but probably not
Not when
at
I
the
was
same
there, I
time as
don't
you.
think. Yeah.
Was there any clowning at Delarte when you were there, or did that come in
Yeah, I
after?
had a 4 week training with Ronlin Foreman,
Right.
who had come out of the Gaulier
Yeah.
Lecoq school. Yeah.
Yeah. And Ronlin's amazing, I think. I sort of did a one-off workshop with him a couple of years ago, and it was really mind-blowing.
Yeah, he's quite intense and he's quite insightful.
Yeah.
Um, it took me a while to adjust to the way he was teaching.
Yeah.
We butted heads a bit during the time, but yeah, for me it was just a great shift as far as what I had been doing with Ringling, to see the
Yeah.
clowning
Yeah.
in another way, and
I'm
as
really,
part.
I'm really interested in this journey that you know you went on from Ringling, where you were learning these big kind of these big sight gags, presumably, and then this more intimate kind of acrobatic clowning in the trio, and then learning about the mask work at Delarte, and that informing the clown in a new way that kind of took you back to the art and the sculpture that you'd done before. It's a really interesting kind of cyclical journey, that, and I think it really explains why you have so many arrows in your quiver, so to speak, you know, as a clown. I'm looking at your website and you just, wow, you sort of do everything.
Yeah, I guess I'm fascinated by the creative process. So
Yeah.
I never got locked into like touring for a year with the show, you know, and it's great to have a job like that and get paid, but it also
Yeah.
means you don't get to create as much because you're so busy doing that same thing every night.
Yes.
And for me, I always tried to keep myself from getting stuck into a long-term job, mainly because I just wanted to try something different.
Yes.
And with my wife, we created more like puppetry and mask work because she's also an artist. So that was great for me to explore that. And then with the Payasos and the Abbots of Unreason, it was more like working with an ensemble
Mm.
and writing kind of material that was for like stock characters that we
Mm.
created in a commedia style. You know, none of this was planned.
Right.
You
You're
know,
just following a
I
journey. You're
never know
following
I
your impulse.
would go from, you know, art training to mime class to Ringling. And
Yeah.
but yeah, I was just kind of following what was interesting to me at the time, and
Yeah.
people that I was drawn to. You know,
Yeah. Yeah.
I would find people that I like, wow, I really like what you're doing. Teach me, or let's work together.
Um, Chad said his question was, I would love to hear what you have to say about clowns and clowning in Shakespeare. Do you work with clowns in Shakespeare?
I did a Shakespeare production at the Globe. It was
That's
Taming of the
right.
Shrew.
Yeah.
Taming of the Shrew, and the director was an Irish woman, brilliant director, Caroline Byrne,
Mm.
and she wanted to create a show that was both quite dark, which the play is or can be quite dark, but also quite funny.
Yeah.
And that was kind of my job to bring some of that in. Um, I'm not. I have a hard time with Shakespeare because I feel like it's done so much,
Mm.
you know. And I would love it if they just took like a quarter of that funding and gave some clowns some money to make some shows. And I had proposed. I never got a response, but I had proposed to the Globe to do a clown production of Hamlet because I
Right.
really wanted to explore that idea of Hamlet as a clown breaking that fourth wall and really blowing open the play.
Yeah.
which I think his clowns always threaten to do,
Yeah.
but always within the confines of his script.
Yeah.
You know, and the Globe was very adamant about you must say what's in the script because people come to hear those words.
Yeah.
And they're amazing. The writing is, of course, amazing and beautiful. But I always wanted to see if you could find a way to break that open. And you'd have to have really skilled actors who knew the Shakespeare, knew the style, could break out of it and find the clown and then come back to it. So it's always fascinated me because he's like, you know, he's like on a pedestal. But I think he wouldn't mind being knocked off a pedestal by clowns.
I agree.
You know, because he writes some very funny stuff, some very funny clowns in his shows. And I know that one of his great sources was the Comedian, which was full of clowns.
Absolutely.
You know?
And also I think that a lot of his comedy, his clown characters, were inspired by the actors who played those clown characters and their ability to improvise and be spontaneous. And then he would build that into the language of the characters. So people like Robert Armin and Richard Tarleton, who were the actors, the clown, they were clowns, you know, and they were playing the clown characters. And I think it's assumed that they were improvising a lot.
And how much of that improvisation ended up in his script.
Right.
And if you look at people like Bertolt Brecht, Beckett, Shakespeare, they all name particular clowns that influenced their way of writing and their way of presenting shows. You know, Beckett was big fan of Keaton. And there's a German clown whose name I can't remember who was a big influence on Brecht.
Carl Baedekind, was it?
Yeah, Carl something. Beautiful picture of him. He's a very thin man. With a very pointy nose and pointy shoes. So, you know, we've always been there. Clowns have always been there. But how do you, again, stick to the script, but allow the clown to go away from that, you know? And that's what I would love to do one day is, you know, that clown, take a Shakespeare play and really break it open with clowns. Not destroy it, you know, not completely like thumb your nose at Shakespeare, but honor it, but at the same time honor the influence of the clown in that.
Yeah, absolutely. Very cool. Well, maybe Chad will reach out to you and you guys will collaborate on a Shakespeare project together. He has a very cool Mark Twain character, Chad, that he does.
Okay.
Of the classics of literature.
Well, that'd be nice to see. Mark Twain and a clown.
Yeah. The big moustache. Johnny Temple is saying, keen to hear Joe's process from developing an idea through to performing it. Johnny, currently enjoying the sun in Spain.
Lucky Johnny. Where is he? Does he say where he is in Spain?
He doesn't, but where are you, Johnny? Let us know whereabouts in Spain you are, so we can just we can understand how sunny it is.
Envy you more. I usually start, either I have an idea, like I want to try this in a show. Often it's a setting, like I want to be in a kitchen and be a chef sort of thing, or a role. I want to be like a janitor or construction worker. Because often when you choose a role, that gives you ideas. You automatically have props to play with. And I like to work a lot with skills in my show. So when you choose a role, you immediately have all these things you can play with. And it gives you an environment, and it gives you something that's familiar to the audience. So right away they say, okay, this guy's a chef, and then you can twist that all out of proportion. You've set up an expectation for them, and then you can just bend and play with that. And that's, to me, is one of the best things for clowns, is create an expectation for the audience. This is what they think you're going to do. You can play into that, or you can just completely take a left turn and but at least you've got them drawn in because it's something they're familiar with. They recognize it. So yeah, I think for me, it's either just starts with a basic idea, a role, a setting, or a prop. There's a show that I made called The Trap, where I have this big A-frame ladder. And I thought, that's a great prop for a street show. And then I just figured out why am I climbing the ladder? And it's kind of an excuse to climb the ladder so that I could do a bunch of slapstick.
Yeah.
And that's kind of how it came about. So
it's
yeah,
kind of the other way
think,
around in a way. You sort of start with the object and figure out what the meaning of it is. Or you could start with a sort of more of a location, a real everyday location, and then figure out what the props are based on that.
Yeah, and what is the task?
Yeah.
You know, like for that show, I was just trying to take a plant, like similar to this, climb up on the ladder and put it up on a high pole. That was basically the idea. In one show where I'm a chef, I was just trying to make a salad for the audience, and that's just that. So the end of the show is just I make the salad.
Which show is that? The Bon Appetit.
Bon Appetit. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the salad is a complete mess, but you know, that's the He's a Clown. And for this show, I never actually get the plant on the pole. It actually ends up on my head. So you know, it's you give yourself something fairly simple.
Yeah.
And then you can get weird. I think some people will, as a clown, they'll think I have to be weird or I have to be funny from the outset.
Yeah.
And right away, the audience is trying to catch up with you. Like, who are you and what are you doing?
Yeah.
And that can work, you know, that can work. But I think if you have elements of the familiar in the show or in your initial ideas, it's going to help you draw the audience in. Like if you look at Slava's snow show, which is, you know, full of all kinds of surreal images, but you see this person who looks like a grown-up wearing kids' pajamas and big slippers.
Yeah.
So you kind of see, okay, here's a guy like going to bed and he enters maybe this dream world. So it's at least something familiar in the show that the audience can kind of grab a hold of. And then you can go anywhere once you've kind of drawn them in.
Mm. So, presumably fairly early on in the process, then you get in a studio or in the room and start playing and seeing what comes up. Or do you find a lot of the gags these days you can invent in your head and then just sort of go and figure them out?
I had a student once who was really struggling, and I gave her a mop. And I said, go into the studio for 2 hours and play with the mop. She's like, what am I going to do for 2 hours with a mop? And I said, don't come back and talk to me until you've spent 2 hours with the mop. So I went in there 2 hours later and she's like, go away. I need more time. Because when you just grab a prop and start to play with it, it gives you ideas.
Yeah.
You know, I always tell my students, you know, like, you know, if you just have this little candle holder, like, where's the camera? There it is. You know, just take that and start to find out what it can do as if it were a human. And you're trying to get information from it. But you can't talk to this thing. It's not going to answer you back. But you start to get information by just playing with it and handling it and throwing it up in the air, and will it bounce off the floor? And that's how you get to learn about it. So in a way, and I think this comes from the art training and the puppetry work, there's no such thing as an inanimate object. You know, every object can be animated and brought to life, and you can do that for the audience by how you interact with it. And so that what that means is, you know, you're never alone on stage, because you've always got, like, you know, you've got your costume, you've got props, you've got the floor, you've always got something you can play with if you treat it as if it's alive, you know.
This is one of the things that I think I love so much about clowning, is that it's really always seems to be about what's real in the moment, like what is actually there, truthfully there in the moment. And so playing with a mop as if it's a mop, you know, it's, I mean, you can pretend that you can pretend it's a tree, or you can pretend it's a this or that. But actually, I think really for me, the heart of clown is in the mop as a mop, and the problems that you have in using it as a mop, you know. And then sort of, if you extend that to think about working with other people in the room, like other performers, it's sort of the same thing, you know, as an object. It's like, what is the real true nature of this other person and my relationship to that person? And it's more complicated probably than with an object. It might take a bit more time, but once you've explored that and you know what what is the status, you know, the most natural way that you relate to that other person, and then once you know that and make that clear to the audience, you can play endlessly.
Well, and because, as you say, you know, clown is about what's actually happening. So there's an honesty. You have to embrace that. And have worked with students. Oh, I had a student once in a group, and they'd been working together for almost a year. And they came to my class. We had a 5-week session, and the guy was a real jerk. And he wanted to be the happy, playful clown. And he goes on stage with 2 other people, and they're all playing this way, and it's just not working for about 2 weeks. It just wasn't working. And finally, in a class meeting, I said, you know, this guy, he's a jerk, isn't he? And everybody's like, and finally some guy raised his hand and says, yeah, you know, you really are kind of a jerk. And suddenly everyone starts, and this guy's just like, oh, you know. But after that, and afterwards I talked to them and kind of, you know, said, well, you know, this is the truth as people relate to you. So I said, go and be the biggest jerk you can be in every clown routine that you do. And he just went for it, and he was hilarious. You know, he was at that John Cleese level of like the imperious, I'm so full of myself sort of energy. Yeah. And then everybody got to play off of that and make fun of him, which they had wanted to do all along.
Beautiful.
But because he was playing this sort of pretend happy clown, it didn't work. So I think address the people that are in the room in an honest way, even though it can be really difficult and maybe a bit painful. But if you are totally honest with them about it, you might actually make more progress faster. And the dynamic becomes more interesting. You know, every clown group I've ever worked with, like the Los Payasos, we were quite exaggerated in our costumes and our outfits and our way of performing. But the dynamic we had was true to how we interacted with each other off stage. You know, we just kind of blew that up and made it into a playful dynamic that there was antagonism between us. That, you know, we argued a lot, but also we played a lot. And once you embrace that and make it part of the show, you end up with something that's more unique than if you just play clown stereotypes, you know, like the white face, the Auguste, and the counter Auguste. You just end up with kind of stereotypes with that. But if you play honestly with who you are and how you change as a trio, because if I put you in one group and you play this way, I put you in another group, you're going to play in a totally different way. And embrace that. You're going to end up with much more original material, much more interesting play than if you try to force yourself to fit into a role.
Beautiful. That's it. It's the truth. It's the truth on stage in a sort of in a sort of hyper real kind of focused.
Yeah, you know, the weird thing about a clown is they come on often with their outfits looking like something that is fantastical or surreal. And this woman, she had like this big white bouffant wig and this white dress and these big construction boots. So she looked kind of bizarre, but she just comes out and she's just mopping the floor. So the contrast between those two things was already quite weird. And then the mop eventually became another person. It became a dance routine. It became this game she played with trying to put the mop between her legs and lift it up. And the pole we had was like 10 foot long. So it was like an extra long mop head. So another thing about the clowning that really drew me to it and still keeps me fascinated is that contrast between the mundane or the very normal or natural and the strange and the surreal. And you play it, as you say, you play it straight. Don't try to make it surreal. But you know in your mind as the creator, you're creating these surreal elements, but you're kind of playing it a bit straightforward, but slightly expanded. You know, I don't like the word exaggerated for clowns. I don't think clowns are exaggerated. I think they're expanded. You know, who you are expanded to another or higher level.
You know? I'm curious, Joe, what you've been doing during the pandemic, clown-wise. How has it affected both your teaching and your performing?
Yeah, it's been very bizarre. Just before the pandemic hit, I had made a show where every routine was audience participation. And I was like, yeah, I got a new show, blah, blah, blah. And then the pandemic hit and I was like, okay, I cannot do that show at all because I can't bring anyone. And then that winter, I started to make a show where I didn't use any volunteers, where I was just this guy in an office dealing with the stuff in an office. And I started to play that show that summer, the 2020, in a couple of festivals that were taking the risk. And it was interesting. It was a different kind of way of playing, you know, because I'd always been used to having people up. And it was more of a theater type show.
But on the
So
street.
but I did, yeah, I did a few on the street. I did a couple of shows in the theater. Yeah, I had to take a normal job, you know, do a bit of that for a while. I've been doing a lot of creating, making things. So when I can go back on the theater or on the street or in the theater, I've got a lot of material.
And what about teaching?
Yeah, I have been doing some actual workshops one-on-one. Yeah, I did a few in Spain, in Saragossa. I'm going there at the beginning of February. I'll be teaching, hopefully, in Saragossa, a 5-day workshop. And then I've just starting in February, I'm going to do some online classes for the first time.
Yes, I saw on your website that you said, I've been resisting this for a long time, but now I'm going to give it a go.
Yeah, I had resisted. I didn't want to do it. I didn't know if it would work. And then I did a few for an In Your Space circus in Derry in Northern Ireland. And it went really well with that group. And then I did some online directing, and that went really well. And then I did a cabaret with a man by the name of Patrick van den Boom, which we'll be doing again. I think we're both going to be doing that in a few weeks.
A week on Saturday.
22nd, yeah. I mean, I did that with them, and it really had a wonderful time. So I thought, okay, I'm going to go online because I want to now experiment with this idea of playing with the camera.
Yeah.
Playing. You know, there's a workshop that's actually about the clown and the camera.
Cool.
You know, and how do I play with this? And not as something that just records me, but how do I play with, you know, the camera as a problem, as a partner, like the girl with the mop.
Yeah.
So there's 4 workshops in total, and for me, it's both playing with this idea of a clown on film or on camera, but also training that you could then carry over to live performance. And it's given people, you know, who've wanted to work with me before, but because I wasn't in their country, you know, they now have a chance to work with me. So that's been actually quite great.
That's one of the really cool things about this online teaching. I'm just wondering, as I'm sort of thinking about this because I'm actually creating a new piece for this show that you and I are both going to be in next week, and I'm creating it with my kids. My kids are going to be in it, and so we started rehearsing a little bit, and we're playing with the idea of snow and being out of doors because it's been snowing a lot here, so it kind of gave us the idea of that. But I think rather than being actually out in the snow, we're going to explore backgrounds, you know, Zoom, working with a Zoom background where you can, with a green screen, you can give yourself any background. So we can kind of give ourselves we can be in a park in the snow. And then we could, as a setting. So I was wondering whether you'd had any experience yet of that kind of play in terms of being online, doing clowning online, and the kind of technical possibilities that some of these platforms give us of kind of shifting location, right? Because otherwise, if you're just in your own home, well, I mean, you can set a clown piece in your own home, of course, and that can be great. But it's not like a theater where you can sort of really control what people see in that stage space that you're in.
Yeah. Well, it's funny because I don't know if I turn it. There's my green screen.
Okay.
I just got one actually for some other work. I really haven't played with it yet, but yeah, you know, I think it's time to embrace the technology and see what we can do with it, you know. And this one, the clown and the camera, I'm very excited by because, you know, I've been playing now on my own to develop the workshop, just to see what you can do with the camera as not just a recording device.
Yeah.
You know, and then I could do it live, but I could also then make a film of that.
Yeah.
And manipulate it even more with music or sound effects or backgrounds, etc. So it's kind of back in that world of, say, Chaplin and Keaton when they first started making films of their vaudeville music hall acts. It's a bit in that world, but also the technology is so different now. You know, you can sit there in your room and project a snowscape behind you, which they could do, but you can do it more easily, you know, with the technology. So I'm very curious about how that works. And I've got, you know, I started to buy some lighting and, you know, and I've watched some YouTube videos and you see these guys that look like they're an amazing studio and then they turn the camera and they're just in their garage,
Yeah.
you know, and their dog's pissing on the toolbox, you know, it's just like, it's not as glamorous as you think.
Well, I think that's been always the case, right, with film and TV, is that actually if you saw what was just around the corner or behind the thing, you know, and now we can all do it, and it's fun. I think there's a lot of possibilities.
Yeah, so I you know, I wouldn't have gone there, so it's a good thing. I wouldn't have gone there if the COVID pandemic thing hadn't happened and I was out of work.
Yeah.
So I'm looking at, you know, seeing the bright side of that, and it's pushed me into other worlds that are starting to be interesting to me and starting to be another creative outlet for the clowning. Because I want to see, like, as a live performer, mostly used to working with that live audience, how do I work with the camera?
Yeah.
Because, you know, I want to reach through the camera and play with the crowd, but I can't.
Yeah.
So right away, I've got an interesting clown problem. And so that, right, my brain starts to turn.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, this idea is very interesting to me. How can I create a clown act as a live artist who's not thinking I'm just recording myself, but the camera is like almost like an adversary.
So what are you planning for the thing next week, Joe? Do you want to give us a sneak preview?
I came up with this routine called the Town Clown, and I did it last year for some street festivals. And the idea was, I don't like clowns with high voices. I don't like clowns who make balloons. I don't like clowns with big round pants, hoop pants they call them. So I'm going to make a show with all those things in it.
Oh, nice.
And so the energy of a clown working with, or creator working with things that he doesn't like, that he actually hates, partly because there's such cliches, you know.
Yeah. So are you going to embrace those things, or are you going to be like, I don't like being in this? Are you going to play with the not liking it?
Well, like we talked about before, I'm embracing the truth of what I feel.
Yeah.
Like, I hate these balloons, but at the same time, I'm excited to play with balloons. But of course, everything goes wrong in the show, and balloons are great props to play with because, you know, they have a lot of life to them.
Yeah. Yeah.
So he just comes in like, hey, balloons, everybody balloons, and then everything just starts to go wrong, and he keeps switching back and forth between my, like, I get to make a balloon clown show, and like, oh, I hate balloons. Shit balloon, pow, 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 you know. So it was a good challenge for me to, and I often do this. I'll often take something that I really don't want to do, and force myself to play with it as a clown, because right away you've got that tension and that contrast, and the audience sees that.
Yeah.
They see at the heart of this that this is something you don't want to do. So, like, if you take someone who's normally an introvert and you ask to put them on stage and they make the effort to be a performer or to perform, the audience will see that tension if they're willing to come forward and try to play it. So I always like doing that. I don't think you should just do things you love to do. You can, but they're not. I think it's more interesting if you do things that kind of, there's like a burr in your saddle, you know, it's like irritates you, and then you have to deal with it. And the audience, I think people really loved the show when I did it, even like adults, because I come out as a clown with all those cliches and balloons, and the adults are all like, oh God, not one of these clowns. And I completely.
And then you turn it on its head.
Yeah. And so suddenly they're like.
Is it something you played with live, or just online?
I did it. I worked at it in a space with a camera and played with it like that. And then I did it a few times last year at a street festival, and it was great fun, because it takes me back to the very beginning when I first started clowning. I didn't know anything about it. I hadn't gone to Ringling for the training. I would just dress up as a clown and just go find a crowd and just mess about with them.
Cool. Yeah.
And just improvise. And I wouldn't say anything, so I had to use my body. And that's how I first started learning about it. And I had such great pleasure in that. So in a way, that show is taking me back to the very beginning, where I was just a clown on the street. Because it started out as an improvisation. I didn't have a show. I was just roaming this. I was selling it as a walk act to gather ideas. So I would just walk around as a clown and improvise.
Yeah.
And then the people in Derry said, well, could you do it as a static show? And that's when I came up with the idea of the balloons. So that's a bit of that I'll be doing on the cabaret.
I've been very remiss of these comments here. Lots of people have commented with interesting things. Epi Floyd says those festivals sound amazing. I wish we had more like that in the UK. Well, yeah, they're not quite on the same level in the UK, but there are some cool festivals in the UK.
If you go to Stockton on the Tees is one. There's one in a town called Devizes, which is near Wiltshire.
Yeah.
And there's one in Norwich,
I
believe. And those are some of the best that I found. I know there are others, but in the UK, they tend to combine them with music. Whereas
true.
in Europe, it's more, this is street theater. And as a performer, you're not contending with music. But, you know, if you go to Europe in the summer, most any country, any town has a festival. So just, you know, look for street theater festivals in Europe and you'll find.
And in the UK, they're often more like the Glastonbury type of where you have to pay a ticket to get in. And like there's one called Festival and there's another one called Just So. And they're kind of family festivals that have a lot of very cool theater, actually, outdoor theater. Happening in interesting locations. It's not generally on the street. It's maybe in a rural, like in a field.
In a field,
And then there's usually a couple of stages where they'll have maybe circus and some music, live music, and that kind of thing. So there is that barrier a little bit. With there is a ticket price, and you often go and camp and stay for the weekend. But there's some interesting ones. I'm going to be in the UK this summer doing a couple of those festivals with a new show that I'm working on. And they're fun. They're also great because they're involving the whole family, you know. I like that. Let's see. Epi Floyd also says interactive clown has an inherent power to captivate an audience. I'd love to examine this mode of performance much more. I mean,
like I said,
I was just going to say, you know, interactive clown is a bit of a what's the word? A tautology, because, you know, clown isn't clown if it's not interactive. It's just the nature of it, right?
Yeah, that's your whole reason for being there on the stage as a clown, in my opinion, is you want to connect with the audience. You want to play with the audience. It's not necessarily about presenting your act. Your act, as you say, is only a frame or a structure that allows you to then connect with the crowd. That's why with the street festivals, the show is just a vehicle so I can play with the crowd.
Yeah.
And I've had shows where I never got to the end of the show because the crowd took over.
Yeah.
Or the play with the crowd took over the show. And I said, okay, I don't care about my show anymore. What I care most about as a clown is this play. Yeah. And suddenly, like, the whole audience is playing with you. Then that's your main objective, not to present your show and say, look how skilled I am.
So I suppose that the thing with the Zoom and doing live audience, trying to do interaction through Zoom online is quite challenging, you know, because you have to train a different muscle somehow to look at the screen and see the little boxes and how people are responding and how to involve them in a way that's, I think, you know, more difficult than if they're just all around you and you can, you know.
Yeah, because
that's our challenge right now.
Yeah, and if I want to look you in the eye, I don't see your eyes.
Yeah,
I just see this glass hole, you know.
Yeah.
But if you, again, like this clown show I was talking about, embrace the problem and see what you can find from that, rather than see, oh, it's a problem, I don't know what to do. No, actually enter into that and you'll find something, because that's what clowns do. Clowns actually, as a creator, you see a problem as an opportunity. Yeah. Not as a problem that stresses you out the way we normally see a problem. You know, you actually, like, I'll go into a space when I first show up and I will look for things that will cause problems for me. And I'll like, okay, that's a good. This is a good thing. You know, the monkey's a good thing. And it's a different way of looking at the world, which is for me quite fascinating, because when you walk on stage, I don't say I'm not nervous. Of course I am, but you're less nervous because you think whatever happens, I'm just going to embrace it and I'll find a way to play with it, instead of being like, I must do only my show and say only my lines.
Yeah.
You know, because then you're like this and you're just too tense about it. But if you're just like, okay, I know what I'm doing, but I also don't know what I'm doing. Let's play.
Yeah.
You know, and so, yeah, like, I agree with this technology, how to make that interactive play work.
Yeah,
but
and I'm really curious to see at the show next week, all the people and how they've, all the kind of inventive ways that they're dealing with that.
yeah, there was some really beautiful work last time I watched it, and just the way people did address that, both in presenting a show to a camera as if that's what it is. You're in this frame and I'm presenting, but also trying to deal with, just that, just this
getting through that.
the perspectives of entering the stage from here or there. And so, embracing that problem is actually more interesting, I guess, at this stage,
So Johnny Temple is in Nerja and in Andalusia, south.
No,
so we're very jealous.
Very nice, Johnny.
Let's see. John says, "I need your book." Oh, that's a good reminder.
Okay.
So Joe, we've only got 3 minutes left, really. Well, we can go over a little bit. Doesn't matter. But tell us about your book, please.
Look, I just happen to have one right here.
Amazing.
I read a lot of books about clowning, and after doing the Clown Conservatory for 4 or 5 years, I had all this information, and I never found a book. Maybe there is one, but I never found a book that was what I would call like a handbook. How do you actually make a clown act, whether it's 3 minutes or a full, evening of theater? How do you do that? What's the nuts and bolts of that? A lot of them are history of clowning, or here's my life in clowning, or lots of anecdotes, or they're based on, most of the modern ones are based on Lecoq or Gollier's work, which is great, it's great, but they've been so influential. So most of my training, my understanding of clown comes from creating original work, ideas in my head, and so I wrote the book to try and show you how you could devise your own work. That's mainly what it is. There's not a lot of concept, there's not a lot of theory, there's not a lot of history. It's just about, these are things I've used for my own work, also when directing someone, and also when collaborating with other artists within the group. And these are things I've done that have helped me to create material. We've talked a little bit about them already, choosing a role, choosing a atmosphere, whatever. But I mean, basically, the book is about, where's the camera? The book is that kind of a thing. It's like a tool book. And I would compare it to say, like, I want to learn about music. I don't want to learn about the history of composers, or, I don't want to listen to a lot of music. I just want to learn how to play the piano.
Yeah.
So teach me how to play the piano. Yeah. And that's kind of why I wrote the book. I wanted it to be that kind of a handbook.
Yeah. I put some links there for people to the Bloomsbury website in the UK and the US. For anybody who wants to order the book.
You can find it on Amazon as well. I mean, Bloomsbury, I'd rather support them. Bookshop.org, which is is a book. They sell it as well. They support independent booksellers.
That's a good
one. But if all else fails, then, you can get it on Amazon. And if that fails, you can also write to me, and I've been sending copies out as well that I'll sign for people. Cool. So, yeah.
Yeah. The website, also your own website, I'm going to put that in the chat so that people can have a look. You've got some clown workshops coming up. Can you tell us a bit about those, maybe? And you did mention the one for camera, but you've got some other ones.
Yeah, I'm doing 4 in total. Starts February 26th, and there's 4 sessions over 4 weeks. So it's Saturdays and Sundays, 1 class over 4 weeks. There's the clown in the camera, the clown in the costume, so just figuring out ways of playing with your costume as a clown, the clown in the prop, so working with props, and then clown, the physical comedian, which is just working with your body and learning how to explore clown, physically. And for me, it's about training. I really feel like clowns need to train in the way you would if you were learning ballet or learning how to play the cello. That this is really about exploring and playing and having fun, but also about learning techniques and learning ways of exploring the clown and performing the clown. That's focused on that, as taking it seriously. That's what we used to say. We used to say at Clown Conservatory, get serious about your funny.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what the workshops are about, just exploring clowning in different ways. So not just clown in a sort of generic sense and play sense, but really about specific things like camera, costume, and being physical and prop work.
Yeah. I'm looking at the PDF you've got online about the workshops as well, which is very comprehensive. So guys, if you are interested and you go to the website, if you click on the link about the workshops, you'll get this PDF, and it has a really good description of each of those workshops and the dates and the times, and they all look really amazing and fascinating and really good value. You're charging £120 for a 4-week course, which is, I think, really great.
You can pay in US and euros in US as well. I will say their class is limited to 10 people per class. And they're starting to fill up. So if you are interested, and I'm getting ready to do a big push this weekend. So if you are interested, get in touch with me soon so I can hold a spot for you. Yeah,
great. Well, Joe, it's been really a delight talking to you. I feel like we hardly just began, really.
We'll do the sequel next time. We'll do the sequel. And I can play more. I can play more with my lights.
Wow! Check it out.
This is me warm. That's warm. Is that no? That's warm.
Yeah,
that's white.
Warm. Yeah,
that's white. This is me as cold. I'm being really cold
Very
right
cold,
now.
Yeah.
But I can take it down to 20% cold.
Oof.
I'm gonna go to 20. There's 20% warm.
Now you're in Spain.
I'm in Andalusia with John. Me and John.
You need to get in front of that green screen and put a beach background.
If only it was that easy.
It is.
Okay, it is. You're right. It is. I'm doing it. Turn up the heat. Turn up the heat a lot.
Yeah.
Green screen.
Turn up to 11.
Hit warm 100%.
The thing is with lights like that is you're going to have to start doing makeup, I think.
I know.
Yeah.
I went into this Boots today and I was looking at the makeup and I was like, excuse me, I'm buying this for my wife.
Right.
I'm going to have to do makeup, my hair. I've got to get a stylist. Wow, it's really
for the Americans, Boots isn't anything to do with boots. It's
CVS. CVS. That's the one. Walgreens.
My wife thought that was so funny.
There's Kelvin. I have to figure out what Kelvin is. I think it has something to do with color.
Oh, right. Yeah.
We'll talk about this in the sequel to this interview.
Yeah, there will be a fascinating sequel all about the technicalities of Kelvin.
A clown and Kelvin.
Kelvin and Hobbes.
Kelvin and Hobbes and the clown. That's my next workshop. I'll be doing that.
It sounds like a Shakespeare play.
Yes, very serious. Very serious. Okay. Maybe Chad and you and I will get together and we'll do the Shakespeare. I'm in.
Shakespeare trio.
I'm in. Sign me up.
Okay.
I'll play any part you want. I'll just sit there and work the lights.
Yeah, you can be the techie.
I'll be Kelvin. I want to be Kelvin.
I think I'll be Hobbes.
Okay.
We'll let Chad be the clown.
Okay.
Yeah.
He's got the noses.
He does.
He's got beautiful noses. Please check out Chad's work. It's really beautiful.
Yeah.
I'll give him a plug because it's really lovely stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. Very cool. All right. Well, thank you, Joe. Pleasure talking to you. I just want to ask you a quick question. Do you recognize this picture of the person who I'm going to have on next week? If you do, don't say who it is because I'm going to do a little teaser through the week.
If it's who I think it is, that's an old picture, huh?
It's very old.
Yeah, wow.
Do you know who it is?
Days. I'm pretty sure I know who it is.
Yeah, okay, cool.
He works in the UK, right?
Sometimes.
And his name starts with a T?
No.
Oh, wait, let me get my glasses. Are you sure?
Well,
okay, maybe it's not who I think it is.
He sent me the picture of it, of him saying that's of him a long time ago. So unless he's pulling a fast one on me. Yeah, so
that's when is that one? When is that one coming up?
Next Thursday at 7 time.
Good.
So I'm through the week. I'm gonna post pictures of him at different stages of his life until somebody guesses who it is.
Very nice. That's a great idea. I like that.
It's quite a well-known clown performer.
Oh, okay.
That's all I'm saying.
Leave it at that. Okay. I'm very curious about this now.
Yeah.
I thought it was somebody else, but now I guess it's not that person.
Yeah.
So okay.
I guess not. So yeah, keep your eyes on this space and find out. And I will. I think once I've cycled through a bunch more people, Joe, I'm gonna, I think, have a sort of groups. I'm thinking of having, 2 or 3 clowns together and have conversations. So I might be back in touch with you about that.
Oh, that'd be wonderful. Yeah, that's what happened with that cabaret, Patrick's Cabaret. Is I just got to talk with clowns all over the world. It was just really wonderful. So to have this kind of a conversation with, others, especially some I haven't met, I only know them online.
Yeah.
It'd be lovely to talk with them. Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, thank you so much. And thank you everybody who tuned in today and watched and posted your comments and questions. It's lovely to be with you again for another Clown-versation, and we'll see you all again next week. So goodbye from me. Goodbye from Joe.
Thanks, Barnaby.
Goodbye.